CDC and health guidelines, but it's not foolproof, as you know. You can be exposed to it and not either have a temperature for 2 weeks or even not at all. So I'm sure that's how it came in, because they've been on shutdown since March 11th, and I haven't seen my mother in 5.5 weeks. So I just feel it's a lack of testing for the nursing homes. So I really want to say it's not Hilltop's fault per se, no nursing homes, but I think we need to really beef up the places that are considered hotspots. And nursing homes, as we know, are they. I mean, when we had a New Rochelle outbreak, everybody rallied and we did unusual things to quarantine that. I don't know why that's not happening now in New York State. In fact, we just got from Cuomo's office where the deaths were and the number of them within county. At first they were saying, well, you don't want to, go against HIPAA law, but we're not asking for names. But the people need to know for their loved ones how many are at what county and what nursing home. So right now there's kind of the shroud of secrecy, which I think, is being fostered by the government. And I almost feel that it could be the fact that maybe we're upstate too, that we don't get the focus that New York City gets, and that is kind of irritating. I watch Cuomo's briefing every day, and I just don't think there's a lot of focus on upstate. And he did say that upstate cases were flat. Well, that's because we don't have the testing. As soon as we have more testing, it's going to go up. So I think that's a false sense of security. I just read today there was a Cornell study where we're one of the most vulnerable counties in New York State, and the rebuttal to that from the local politicians is, well, we have a high percentage of aged population. Sure, so I mean, if you know where the problem is, then we should address it head on. And I think we need to be an advocate for them, because these are the people who are most vulnerable and they cannot talk for themselves. So I think people like myself, and that's why I'm here, that we really need to push for this information. We need to know not only what counties they're in the deaths, but we need to know what nursing homes too. And I think they're kind of afraid to let that out, because people will come and get in arms, and it's rightfully so. So we really have to be advocates for them. So I'm going above and beyond, and I'm probably a rare person, because not everybody in a nursing home can get pulled out. Their family can't care for them, because they can't provide the quality of care. I'm on the border. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm doing with a leap of faith and doing what's the best for my mother. And I feel, if you do the right thing, things will turn out okay. So I'm apprehensive about this, but I don't want to get the message across that we really need to have more focus on this. And if these are hot spots, then we need to do something different. We need to approach the problem different and not just treat them as the rest. Because right now the testing at nursing homes are the same as if you came in off the street to a doctor. It has to be an elevated temperature. So there has to be more focus to this. We owe this to our parents, our loved ones, and to our society. And also, by the way, there's people who are aides and nurses in there. They're getting exposed too. So they're bringing it home to their families, so they're nervous and scared. So even if people don't mind trivializing the elderly, which I think is terribly wrong, and you're moving towards euthanasia then, but how about the people who work there? That is not fair to them. So we really need to highlight this. So I appreciate you having me on and just expressing my opinion. If I could call Trump or Cuomo myself and get their number, I would give them an earful and tell them the same thing.
All right, could you take me back a little bit and tell me a little bit more about your decision, the decision process of deciding to take your mother out?
Oh, it was agonizing. I mean, she didn't want to come here because she doesn't want to complicate my life, and also she doesn't want to bring something here. But after day, and then you heard the story about 17 bodies in New Jersey nursing home they just found, and things are just getting worse and worse. And it doesn't seem like we have an aggressive plan to attack this. That I just said, Mom, we got to make a decision sooner or later. Don't wait till next week until the virus is in your building, because I do have a compromised immune system myself. So I don't want to put my husband, myself more at risk. And we waffled back and forth, and finally we made a decision that we're going to try it. We're going to go for it. It's not going to be easy, I don't think, but I feel now that we made the decision. I'm looking forward to seeing my mother today. I'm picking her up this afternoon. I haven't seen her in 5 weeks. So the thought of never seeing my mother again and her potentially dying without me ever saying goodbye or holding her hand or anything, broke my heart. So it's going to be an inconvenience on my lifestyle, but you know what? Everybody has to be inconvenienced these days. So I really, now that the decision is made, but we wrestled with it because it's involving my husband, it's involving me, and I'm not a healthcare worker. The most I know about medicine is Googling things. So she's had full-time nurses, full-time aides. I'm going to be all that she's going to have. So it's going to be a handful. So it's with a leap of faith and a wing and a prayer, and that I'm going to do this. So I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to do that or can do this, but I think I made the right decision, and I get to see my mother and spend some quality time with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you could describe for me a little bit more your concerns about not seeing your mother again, what you've seen other people go through, and how that contributed to the decision.
Oh yeah, I talk to her daily, but it's not the same, and to think that she could die potentially, and I've read these stories on the internet, in a hospital room, maybe with a ventilator, nobody there, nobody be there when she passes. I guess people are using phones or, maybe FaceTime to say goodbye, but that just breaks my heart. I mean, she's my mother. She's always been there for me. So to have her die alone like that, and it's maybe a terrible death of, your lungs fill up, not to be there to comfort her, it breaks my heart for the people who had to go through that, and I just didn't want to see that happen. So that's why I made the decision ultimately. It would just break my heart and I feel probably guilty afterwards if I didn't at least try to do this. Now the downside is that she's going to be out of the nursing home system, and that's really hard to get back into from your home. So if all of a sudden she needs care, that's a downside. But there's a lot of downsides, but there's pluses. So I mean, in the end, I'm doing it because I couldn't bear to see my mother die that way if I could help it. And that was it.
And what are your plans for care so far? You mentioned just Googling things or,
Well, my mother had her own house, and she had a lot of equipment for like shower chairs and things like that. We gave them away because we never anticipated that. So our house right now is not really set up other than it is on one floor. So we don't know if we need to buy a hospital bed for her. Tonight she'll be sleeping in just a spare bedroom, but and then plus she has a special diet of pureed food too. We've never made pureed food, so this is going to be quite an adventure for us. So, and she's regressed a lot since last I've seen her when she was independent about 2 years ago. So it's going to be difficult, but you do sacrifice for people you love.
Gotcha. And is there anything else that you have to say about the nursing home itself? I know you mentioned that they have been compliant with the state regulations, so you don't fault the nursing home itself at all in any of this?
No, I don't. They probably don't want to go out there and say, well, we got a dozen cases if nobody else is, complaining, telling how many cases they have. So I can understand that, but I think there needs to be more transparency all the way around for all the nursing homes right now. We need to put the focus on there, and I think the government has kind of taken the focus away to the point that people don't get alarmed. But people should be alarmed at the rate of death. 25 to 30% of the total deaths are there. So if that's the case, then it logically means we should go and do more testing. We should provide them with all the PPE equipment that they need. I know they are lacking on some of that. They don't have all the N95 masks and the gowns that they need. I'm talking to nurses, and I'm talking to nurses at Hilltop, and they are very forthcoming. So Hilltop has done a great job, and I feel that the top nursing home, but like I said, it's not foolproof the way you test somebody coming in. All the help should be tested right now. So it happened at Hilltop just, by sheer bad luck, and it can happen anywhere then.
And what would you say, or I guess why do you think it's so important to have that transparency for other parents like yourself who have parents in nursing homes they may not be able to take them out?
Well, I think they need to know. I mean, everybody needs to know. They're talking about this all the time, but why? It's almost like they want to push aside because the elderly and not, I almost think it's a bias towards elderly. you know, because they are more of people who can't speak for themselves. So I think they're easier to be treated that way, and plus, if they got tested more, it would heighten the numbers, and then it would use more resources that could be used maybe down in New York City hospitals. But I think we just got to work together and figure out a way to help everyone, and not just kind of put the elderly people on the back burner and just say, well, the county is not in good shape rating because there's a lot of elderly here. That's not a good reason. You know, we've got to help everybody. I feel like they're being treated differently than the rest of us.
All right. Is there anything else that I'm missing, or anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's it.
All right. Are you looking forward to seeing your mom later today?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I can't wait to give her a hug and a kiss. So I'm really excited about seeing her. So like I said, it's not for everyone, this choice. I'm not sure if it's even for us, but we're going to just take a chance. So check with me maybe in about a month.
Do a little follow-up in a month. Do you mind sending me, if you can, a picture of you and your mother, or
Sure.
I know Paula mentioned when you pick her up, if you could send something of that, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Just send it to this number. That would be great, and we can personalize it a little bit. Maybe I usually say 2 or 3 pictures.
Okay. Let me just look at my notes here to see if I missed anything else. I think I covered everything. Did I cover everything, huh? I think so. Well, the other point is I do think the data should be released not only by county but by nursing home on a daily basis as part of the county.
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis by nursing home, by county, because they did release that this week, Cuomo's office, and they did it just like that after a reporter pressed for them. And at first they were hiding behind the HIPAA law, saying, well, we want privacy, but we're not saying we release the names, just the count. But they did it by county, but not by nursing home.
Gotcha.
So that's not transparency to me.
Okay. I will make sure that I know that.
So I think you guys need to keep pressing for them. Because I think it's going to be even far worse, It just spreads like wildfire once it gets in there. Last week it was just one case last Saturday, now it was up to 11 yesterday.
And who you mentioned, I know in the notes I have Paula, there's someone who goes in between.
Oh yeah, they have, when this first came out, they have tagged a nurse. She's kind of like my COVID contact for the nursing home, so anytime I have a question. And a couple times I started asking questions about masks and something more detailed, and she didn't have the answer to it. So she actually had an administrative nurse call me back, which I thought was great. So whenever I had a question, they were very forthcoming about that question. But their hands are tied about the testing of the aides and the people coming in. They can't control that. So that's why something that needs to get done quicker before these people all leave us.
All right, I got all that. It took a while, so thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
This should be on 6 o'clock tonight if everything goes according to plan. Like I said, if you wouldn't mind just shooting those pictures
Sure.
to this number. Great.
All right, take care.
All right, thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Bye-bye.
And good luck with your mom.
Thank you. Bye-bye.